Okay, so you just drained out all your radiator fluid out of your system, and now it's time to put radiator fluid back into your system. But if you're like me, you're wondering what's the best radiator fluid to put into your North Star engine, correct? Well, if you're like me, I went on YouTube to find out what is the best radiator fluid. And man, I got to tell you, there was a lot of controversy on that subject. And now, if you're like me, you're wondering, should I use this or this? This video is an accumulation of all the YouTube videos that I watched and all the articles that I've read to research this issue. Hopefully, at the end of the video, you'll make an educated decision on which fluid you want to use without me giving you too much information. Hopefully this saves you some time and money. And of course, do your own research before making your decision. 10 years after General Motors began using Dexcool as an antifreeze in most of their cars and light trucks, GM cars and truck owners continue to complain that the coolant corrodes and clogs radiators and radiator caps, erodes water pumps, rots radiator hoses, causes chronic overheating and engine damage while leading to leaky engine gaskets. Patricia in Ohio feels cheated by the automaker and says, "I've had 2 intake gaskets replaced on my 1997 Pontiac Grand Am." She continues to say that the gaskets cost her close to $1,000 and they told her that there was no guarantee that it wouldn't happen again. She wrote this in a complaint to the Consumer Affairs Office. I just recently found out about the Dexcool problems, and that's what I've been using in my vehicle since that's the kind that's required by the automakers, Patricia said. As of this date, Dexcool has now been used in almost 40 million vehicles sold by GM since 1996. On its website, GM claims Dexcool will last 5 years or 150,000 miles. But a steady stream of consumers insist that the product is defective and has damaged their cars. GM is quick to clarify its confidence in the antifreeze by stating that GM Owner's Manual recommends 150,000 miles service intervals is not a warranty guarantee. On its website, the company now warns owners that to consult with the vehicle's owner manual for the type of coolant right for your vehicle and never mix one type of coolant with another. At this date, I found out there were 14 lawsuits filed in state and federal courts throughout the country by GM vehicle owners angered over their experience with Dexcool. A Missouri judge may soon grant class action status to suits in his state. That would mean that millions of GM customers could become involved in the lawsuit. The Missouri Supreme Court has declined to hear an appeal from GM challenging the class action certification. The Missouri lawsuit filed in April 2003 alleged GM vehicles with Dexcool in their cooling systems developed a rusty sludge. The plaintiff claims that the GM refused to repair their vehicles or pay for the repairs, and the lawsuit seeks unspecified damages for breach of warranty under the federal Magnuson-Moss Act and the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act. Samuel in Ohio experienced a similar problem with sludge in the cooling system in his car. "I have sludge in my coolant caused by Dexcool," he wrote. "GM demands that the coolant be used. So far, it's just the gaskets that has to be replaced. I will see if further damage was caused," he told Consumer Affairs. So what did GM say about this? GM will not comment on the pending lawsuits, but continues to claim that Dexcool represents an improvement over traditional coolants. Nevertheless, the automaker has alerted mechanics that vehicles operate with 15,000 to 20,000 miles with low coolant levels may be susceptible to formation of rust-like materials in the cooling system. Deborah from New York faces similar news from her mechanic when she took her 2002 Buick Century in for a maintenance check. Deborah was told that Dexcool needed to be flushed and refilled, even though the owner's manual stated the coolant ought to be good for 100,000 miles. "My car only had 48,000 miles," she wrote. "The Dexcool had corroded the engine, and the mechanic also advised that the plastic manifold would need to be replaced since the Dexcool had literally eaten through it." Deborah blames the costly repairs on GM because, in her view, the automaker installed what they knew as faulty equipment, namely a plastic item in an engine unit and Dexcool antifreeze that does not work. In Madison County, Illinois, a lawsuit claims Dexcool began to turn into sludge, which then accumulated in the engine cooling system and radiator. The bright orange coolant often changes into a muddy colored liquid, and when the change occurs, automobile mechanics blame Dexcool for expensive cooling system flushes, gasket replacements, and even new radiators and heater cores. You'll see the heater core leaking. You'll see frost plugs leaking. You'll see water pump failures. You'll see overheating problems. You'll see air conditioners not cooling very good. You'll see transmissions burning up at 100,000 miles if the coolant systems are not working right, said one mechanic who works on GM cars and trucks. Ronald in Downey, California told ConsumerAffairs.com that Dexcool had almost destroyed the engine in his car. He said the product in the vehicle's coolant system deteriorates aluminum parts in the engine. Ronald also said the intake manifold, cylinder heads, and timing chain covers are all made out of aluminum. My vehicle needs all these parts replaced. His problem worsened. He said the motor has coolant in the oil and the oil has coolant in it, indicating that the head gasket is leaking. This is the second time this problem has occurred. The repairs on his damaged engine now have cost Ronald more than $4,000 because all the aluminum parts have been replaced. So now with all this information, what are we supposed to do? Well, as lawyers continue to collect names for potential class action lawsuits from people claiming Dexcool damaged their car or truck, automobile mechanics are advising that if you have Dexcool as a coolant in your vehicle, you should not replace it with another form of antifreeze. If your car or truck came from the factory with Dexcool, you should continue to use the coolant both as a replacement and to top off the radiator, mechanics say. Last but not least, if your car came from the factory with standard green antifreeze, don't switch to Dexcool.
Okay, all done. Well, I hope this video helped you out in making a decision what kind of radiator fluid you want to put in. I certainly made mine. Please don't judge me. I hope there wasn't too much information for you to digest. I could have talked about organic acid technology, or hybrid organic technology, or galvanic response. I'll let the other guys tell you all about that. There's a bunch of them on YouTube if you really want to get into it. Well, I hope I see you in my next video. Until then, bye.